Good morning, everybody. This is El Salvador. Welcome, everybody, especially from Moldova and Tunisia, to our Lent webinar dedicated to the CD Ministerial Conference, that is of the Community of Democracies. The Lent Network, Leaders Engaged in New Democracies, is an initiative of the Community of Democracies that aims to share information on how to make the democracies work and work better. I have today here with me Gustavo Arguetta, who serves as focal point for the presidency of the Community of Democracies, El Salvador, and Patricia Galdamez, the chief coordinator of the Civil Society Forum that makes part of the Ministerial Conference. Myself, my name is Magda Gawrońska. I serve as the principal coordinator on behalf of the Permanent Secretariat of the Community of Democracies, and I have the greatest pleasure to welcome not only the members of the Lent Network that will participate in our Ministerial Conference, but especially those who are tuning in for the first time to watch our webinar. So a very warm welcome, and perhaps let us proceed to the discussion. So my first question is about the Community of Democracies, what organization that is and what the values are. And let me ask direct this question to Mr. Arguetta, the Salvadoran diplomat who serves as focal point for the presidency.
Thank you, Magdalena, and thank you to all the participants in this webinar, and thank you, Patricia, for also accompanying us this morning. The Community of Democracies has been part of the multilateral efforts to promote democracy in the past 15 years. El Salvador officially became part of the community in 2005 during the Santiago Ministerial, the Ministerial Conference that took place in Santiago de Chile. And since then, the Community of Democracies has been evolving into what we now consider, using the United Nations terms, an intergovernmental coalition of states. In this case, like-minded states that promote democratic values and promote the strengthening of democracy at the global level. So El Salvador, given its vocation towards democracy, and provided that El Salvador was one of the most successful processes in democratic transition, we became part of the Community of Democracies, and we believe that we have been providing inputs to those general efforts in promoting democracy. So we were announced as the presidency of the Community of Democracies for the biennium 2013-2015 during the Ministerial Conference in Vilnius in 2009. So that means that El Salvador has been actively involved in the work and the activities of the Community of Democracies as part of the Troika since 2009. And from there, we also have been actively involved in the evolution and the reform of the Community of Democracies to what we have now, 15 years later. We also then we received the presidency from Mongolia in Ulaanbaatar in the 7th Ministerial Conference, and since then we have been promoting the main topic of this presidency, which is democracy and development.
Thanks so much, Gustavo. The Community of Democracies serves to support countries that undergo democratic transitions, and therefore we do work with the governments who declared the willingness to do so, but we also work with civil society in all parts of the world. So the big question is, why is civil society so important to the Community of Democracies?
Is that my question? Well, civil society was and has been an integral part of the Community of Democracies. because since its very conception, civil society was considered a pillar of the Community of Democracies. And of course, this space provides the opportunity for civil society as a recognized actor of the international community. Now we have that in the framework of the United Nations. The international community not only refers to the states, but also other actors, relevant actors such as the private sector, social vulnerable groups or population groups, and namely the civil society. It is important, and we, as during our presidency, we have, of course, provided and took on board the civil society component as one of the key aspects of the presidency. And it is important, of course, because without them, democracy it wouldn't work as we envisioned. Civil society also, when it's well structured and well organized, can also serve not to the regular citizens and to the what we call citizens on foot, to of course gather all the major topics of interest from society and to put it on the table when they interact with governments, and of course promote the expansion of political participation and other aspects that related to the well-being of societies in general.
Thank you very much. And perhaps I'll pick on what you said about the interactions in between the governments and civil society. We do not only support civil society, but actually civil society is part of the decision-making structure that we have. And civil society, we do provide voice for the civil society. We have a dedicated structure, a dedicated network of civil society organizations that Patricia Galdamez is a member of. So perhaps, Patricia, I would want to ask you about what civil society does within the Community of Democracies. What is your role?
Well, thank you, Magda. Thank you all for being here with us today at this webinar. Well, I think in taking up on some of the ideas that Gustavo was just mentioning right now, really civil society is more of an integral part of democracy, I think, of any democracy around the world. So ever since the Community of Democracies, ever since the president was taken up by El Salvador 2 years ago at the Ulaanbaatar Ministerial Conference, we decided to, as civil society organizations in El Salvador, to get together. We established a bigger network, called on other civil society organizations and NGOs here in the country that are working more or less around the democracy, area, democracy, governance, citizen participation. And so we became more involved, we became more engaged. And thanks to that, well, we also started working and trying to strengthen what the community has right now within civil society, within this civil society pillar, which was up until now the International Steering Committee. And so we worked for the past 2 years in discussing with several other civil society actors, not only here in El Salvador, but around the world, in trying to find a way in how to strengthen this civil society structure to make it more comprehensive and to include other actors around the world, really, which would include not only civil society organizations at the national level within the CD member states, but also regional networks like the Red Lat, which is the regional network for Latin America for democracy, also the Asian Network for Democracy, among others, and also global NGOs that can help us all move forward and work together in in a better way with the Community of Democracies, with the member states, and of course with the Permanent Secretariat.
Thank you. So for those of our viewers who are coming to the Ministerial Conference, but also who are not, if you're a civil society activist, if you're part of any network, regional network, please do contact us, because as Patricia said, we, the Community of Democracies and its civil society pillar, are right now undertaking an effort to become more, to have a more representational network that would include networks, that would include think tanks, democracy doers. So we do count on you writing to us. We have spoken, I think, sufficiently for this moment about what the Community of Democracies is, and I would want to focus more about the event that we are going to host next week. So, Gustavo, if you could tell our viewers what the Ministerial Conference of the Community of Democracies is.
Thank you. The 8th Ministerial Conference, well, is going to close this, let's say, this transition moment, what I consider a transition moment in the organization. We believe that after we organize when we see the results of this Ministerial Conference that will take place next week here in San Salvador, we will be able to say that the Community of Democracies in the past 2 years has evolved, and it has brought more ideas and more ways, let's say, creative ways to engage or to continue this engagement in promoting democracy worldwide. We will expect a very dynamic input from all the participants, which is the youth, the private sector, the civil society, and of course from governments and other special invited personalities, so we can all together create an environment of transparent discussion and moving forward with promoting democratic values and democracies around the world. We believe that the open dialogue is of course one of the processes that should be permanently in place in all countries. El Salvador is not the exception. We have been working and in building these spaces to promote this interaction with the different actors. And this ministerial conference, it not only shows that this space is alive in our country, but it also is expanded towards the world. We hope that participants from around the world can get a closer look to what the process in El Salvador was, what the kind of democracy that we are building in our country, and of course to also hear from other experiences from around the world and from the participants that will come to San Salvador, and to hear and to learn not only the groups that are already organized here, but also the government also is expecting to have open ears and to listen from other perspectives and other points of view and other visions on how democracy can be promoted and strengthened.
Thank you very much. The theme of not only the Ministerial Conference but the entire presidency, as you said, has been democracy and development. Why are we concluding the ministerial with that topic? Why is it so important for El Salvador?
Thank you. That is a very important question. Since the very beginning, when we started thinking on what would be the main topic or the main focus of the presidency, we thought that the momentum that the new Sustainable Development Goals, the discussion of the new SDGs, or well, what it is now defined as the new development agenda. This discussion was taking place within the United Nations framework, and also considering that our region, since we are a Latin American country, we believe we belong to this part of the world where we are consider democracy a very dear achievement in our region. Also, we are part of the South, of the Global South, and the efforts to achieve more developed countries, more developed societies, inclusive societies, of course, interlinks with the strengthening of democracy and the political participation of all the population, of all the groups, social groups. So the combination of these two, these two elements, we believe that it was important to start promoting a new vision and to introduce this discussion into the activities of the Community of Democracies. Democracy is not only, it is good to discuss that democracy has to have a component on electoral, periodical elections and political parties, and multiple visions acting together and building democracy, but also is important the other aspects of what we call a real democracy, which is the economic democracy, access to basic needs and basic needs that are related to development. So health, education, all of these aspects also play a very important role if we want to have a society that is contributing and assimilating democracy as a way to cohabit in a peaceful society, in a peaceful environment. So democracy and development. I'm sorry. Democracy and development, we consider that will provide the frame for a broader discussions, and of course take on board other aspects of democracy that we believe are important not only for the region but for the whole world.
Thank you very much. I think that Gustavo has given an excellent preview of what the topics, the multiple topics will be for the Ministerial Conference. He's actually being contacted by the Foreign Ministry because as you know, we are in the final days of preparations, and that does not leave us a minute free to appear even on webinars. But so you know, the Ministerial Conference begins on Wednesday, the 22nd of July, and it continues through until July 24th. The first day, the day of the forums, as we call it, will be dedicated to the discussions of civil society, youth, the private sector, and a meeting of the parliamentarians. And I would want to ask Patricia, you about the civil society forum that you are organizing. What is that the civil society will be discussing?
Sure. Well, within the big framework of democracy and development, we decided to discuss 4 main issues. And I must say we actually got those issues from several meetings that, with the help of the Permanent Secretariat, were carried out with civil society around the world within tech camps. So I won't go into that. But after several discussions, we decided to focus on 4 different topics. The first one being transparency, open government. The second one being enabling civil society environment, which is pretty much what we've been discussing for the last 2 years. That's something very important. And the third one being inclusive societies. How do we ensure human rights for everybody? You know, with those vulnerable groups, especially LGBTI groups, people from African descent, indigenous groups, women, among other, vulnerable groups. And also, the fourth topic is education for democracy. How important it is to actually work on civic education, on a culture of democracy around the world. So those are mainly the 4 topics we'll be discussing. We will be having panels of discussion within those 4 topics, And we'll be having a keynote speaker, and then we'll go into panels to discuss the different areas. At the end of the day of that first day, which is on the 22nd, we'll be hopefully validating several recommendations that we'll be providing the CD member states at the end of that day that come from civil society within those four main areas.
Thank you. This declaration, these recommendations will be validated by the many civil society participants that are going to attend. As you know, the Community of Democracies has invited over 250 representatives of NGOs from all continents. So the participants will include Asian NGOs, African, European, Northern American, Southern American, which will end up with a group with extremely important, extremely different, and at the same time similar experiences of fight, of possibly persecution. What are the various events that are offered to civil society that will allow those civil society members to share the various experiences? Are you organizing anything? Is there anything else being organized apart from this one-day discussion for civil society? Are they able to participate also in other parts of the ministerial?
Well, now that you mentioned that, before the 22nd, on the 21st, we're going to be having 3 different events, 3 different workshops. One of them focusing on vulnerable groups, to have an entire day to actually be able to discuss what the main problems are throughout the world of these specific groups within how do we move forward to ensure human rights for everybody. And we'll also be discussing in a different workshop focusing on people of African descent and indigenous groups as well. And the 3rd workshop will focus on human rights defenders, which is, I think, a very huge issue, not only in this part of the world, not only in Latin America, but around the world, because we've seen a growing tendency of shrinking civic space in many parts of the world. So we're going to be able to discuss that within that previous day to the actual start of the ministerial. I think we'll have, well, there's not always enough time, but we'll have somehow enough time to discuss, you know, what's going on around the world, what are those best practices that we can promote, how we can work together in a better way, how we can organize ourselves together better as civil society, and also what kind of ideas and recommendations we can actually provide to the different, you know, governments that will be here during the rest of the week. So I think we'll get a pretty good sense and a space for people to have that discussion even before the ministerial conference.
We will be tweeting, Facebooking about the ministerial and about the different events that we are hosting. So if you are not, unfortunately, being able to participate in our ministerial, please do stay tuned on the various social media that we are offering. You will be able to hear, to watch the presentations and discussion panels with the participation of some of the most amazing civil society activists from around the world. Patricia, who the speakers will be?
Well, we have some speakers from Civicus, ICNL, also a speaker that works as an independent consultant for Open Government Partnership. We'll have Stephen Wagensale, which is part of our international, part of the ISC right now, and among other people like that. So we were trying to combine speakers from around the world within each panel, and also panelists also from around the world to be discussing in each area to make it a little bit more, you know, more comprehensive for everyone, so we can get a better idea of what's going on within those topics around the world. So it will not only be a Latin American idea, but it will be, we're trying to make it comprehensive for everyone.
Thank you very much. Can you tell us about, do you have any anecdotes from behind the scenes to tell us? We at the governmental part tend to receive instructions and be very hierarchical, but when it comes to civil society, the very nature of it is a discussion. It's sometimes a non-violent conflict of ideas. So any juicy anecdotes for us?
Well, definitely, we're not that high. We don't work that way. We tend to have fun, even while we're trying to organize this, and we've been doing that for the past, I don't know, year. We always try to have fun within that. Anecdotes, it's hard to think right now. I think we're going to be having some anecdotes when everybody's here next week. But we've been having, and I think I haven't mentioned that, as a preparation for this ministerial meeting and the Civil Society Forum, we had an open network, what's it called, a website, sorry, where we have been discussing those four different topics. So it's been very interesting to get people's opinions, and we've had that open since May. I'm not sure, I think we can share it afterwards with all of you, the specific link to that website, which you can still go into, and you'll be able to actually see some of the recommendations of the declaration we've already put there, and to be open for discussion for everybody. So I think right now what we've seen is a lot of interesting discussions among some very specific and not and political type of topics that have come up. But it has been interesting to see that mainly civil society around the world, we are very much, we think along the same line in several issues right now, which is obviously how to promote democracy around the world, the very need of counting with transparent governments. How do we fight corruption? We've been discussing that a lot within this network website that we had. So I think right now we haven't been having that much fun. Hopefully we will be doing something funner next week. We have a cocktail actually on the 21st at night with some civil society participants on after the very first assembly for the civil society pillar. We'll be having that on the 21st, and it will be the consolidation of a 2-year work. That will be interesting too, because we'll be electing, hopefully, a new international steering committee for civil society. So, and hopefully this new international steering committee will be working very much hand in hand with the Permanent Secretariat and with the new presidency, and also working together to strengthen democracy around the world. So right now I really can't say we have some anecdotes. I think we'll have them after next week.
Thank you very much. So all of the things we've just discussed will happen only on one day, 22nd. The ministerial day will also take place on the 23rd and 24th. And before I ask you, Gustavo, about the ministerial day, which is the day organized hosted by El Salvador, let me briefly invite our ministerial participants to attend the day number 2, the day of dialogue. The day of the dialogue serves to bring together all of the different representatives of democracy, all of the actors in democracy, for joint discussions on the most pressing of issues pertaining to democracy, the challenges that it's facing. So each of the panels will include a foreign minister that is representative of the government, a civil society representative, somebody from an international organization, a parliamentarian, in order to provide all of them with the opportunity to share with us their perspectives, because as you know, everybody, every of these groups have a little bit different perspective, because they are working on different set of issues. So the day of the dialogue is this most vibrant, most controversial day where all of the opinions are shared. They're very honest. Nobody is afraid of hearing them, because this is exactly what democracy is about. Through commenting, through receiving critical opinions, this is the only way that we can increase the quality of our democracy. So this is day number 2, taking place on July 23rd, and then the Ministerial Day, the day when we bring together the participating states of the Community of Democracies. Gustavo, what exactly will take place on 24th?
Thank you. Well, we have been receiving confirmation, and even we are receiving confirmation right now as we are having this discussion or this dialogue or this webinar. We have been receiving a lot of confirmation, and what we will expect is to have the highest level participation possible. We will have different levels of participation from governments. But I think that one of the most important or the key aspects of this is not only to sit down and listen to the messages that high-level participants will bring. The hosting country has organized a high-level panel with high-level personalities that are somehow involved in democracy around the world. So we set the tone for the next point or a plenary session, where the participants of the 4 forums that were organized in the first day of the conference will bring to the attention of high-level government participants and delegates the results of their deliberations and the results of their forums, and also, of course, the Community of Democracies as a whole has to listen to these 4 pillars, let's say pillars of the Community of Democracies, and of course include those ideas, those recommendations, whatever it results from the different fora, into the activities of the Community of Democracies for the next period. So I think it's important to highlight this aspect where high-level participants, high-level delegates will receive this input from parliamentarians, from the civil society, from youth, and from the private sector, so we can move forward in this endeavor.
Thank you very much, Gustavo, for providing this overview. I think it's time for the question and answers, and I am already receiving signals that there are quite many of them. The first question, if I see correctly, is about something that you have talked about the confirmations that are still coming in. So which countries and how many of them are going to be represented at the Ministerial Conference, and what unites them?
Well, since I am not directly involved in this, but I have been being posted on this. What we have heard as of this morning, early this morning, is that we have at least 15 high-level representatives. That I will expect that we are talking about Minister for Foreign Affairs of 15 countries, and then we have a larger number of vice minister or deputy ministers. Also, we have at the ambassadorial level, we have perhaps most of the heads of delegations are at the ambassadorial level. Some of them are posted in New York, so they are pretty much in the know of the democracy and development issue, which we believe is a very important input. And also, the majority of participants come from capitals and are a high level or senior officials, that of course have been following up on all the activities of the Community of Democracies. So we believe that we have gathered, and we will have a very interesting mix of participants and official delegates from governments that will hopefully get also actively involved in during the forums, maybe as more as an spectators, but also perhaps during the coffee breaks they will have the chance to interact, to provide comments to what the different fora are discussing. On the second day they will have a more active participation, and of course the networking in this type of events is very important. And I think that when more people gets together and people from capitals come to these events, of course they can experiment firsthand how this open dialogue takes place, and they can bring ideas and perhaps make recommendations to their governments through their ministers. So how important it is to promote democracy, not only in the frame of what the Community of Democracies provides, but also abroad. That is at the level of the United Nations and different fora, other fora, but most precisely what to have perhaps recommendations in the line of becoming part of the Governing Council. So this is important for governments, so they can start considering perhaps their more active participation in the community.
Thank you. The next question, an excellent one, is about the big decisions that will be taken at the Ministerial Conference. Patricia has already spoken about the reform of the International Steering Committee, which is a very important step for the Community of Democracy and its civil society pillar. Any big decisions on the side of the government?
Of course, this is also will take place during the ministerial. We are expecting to announce by acclamation the ministerial declaration of San Salvador. This has been an open negotiation process on a document that the members of the Governing Council have been negotiating in the past months. So we are also organizing the Governing Council meeting, and this particular discussion will take place. So we expect to provide a declaration, to have at the end of the conference a declaration that, of course, serves as an inflection point towards this in the work of the Community of Democracies, and that will motivate more participants, more countries to get involved in the works of the Community of Democracies. This declaration, of course, will be open for more adhesions from different participant states, and of course, it's going to become. We believe that it's going to provide different, a fresh view on how democracy should be promoted inside the Community of Democracies, by including other aspects that relate to social development, social inclusion, the active participation of vulnerable groups, and of course all the efforts that people, developing countries are implementing towards development, inclusive development.
Thank you very much, Gustavo. The next question is to Patricia. You've been talking about the International Steering Committee. If you can decipher that for our viewers who don't know what it is.
Oh, well, the International Steering Committee was actually the pillar of civil society for the Community of Democracies, which is right now composed of around 27 members from around the world, very important civil society representatives and human rights defenders, among other people. But it was only 27. What we're trying to do right now with this new structuring or restructuring process or strengthening of the civil society pillar was to include and make it more comprehensive. This is why the structure will be composed of around 80 members from around the world. And also within that structure, obviously divided with global NGOs, global think tanks, civil society representatives at the national level of the CD member countries, but also non-CD member countries would also be involved, as well as regional NGOs. And also, but within that bigger structure, we will be keeping an international steering committee, or a steering committee, which would be composed of 20 members that will be hopefully electing on next Tuesday, on the 21st. And we're going to be moving forward with that new international steering committee, hopefully working very closely to the new presidency, and of course with the Permanent Secretariat, and in how to keep on strengthening civil society. We're thinking about working on a roadmap as well for the next 2 years. And we'll see how that goes. I think we're doing a very good job. We're trying to. We already have a very strengthened civil society. We'll have, as of a few days ago, I think we had around 80 people, 80 civil society participants from different actually countries. So it will be a very interesting experience.
Thank you very much, Patricia. I hope that we got a question about how the civil society, what type of institutions, networks will be eligible to participate in the network. So you just spoke about the networks, about think tanks, about individual, about grassroots organizations. The next question is about the different fora and the different events that will take place. Patricia is the chief coordinator for the Forum of Civil Society. Now there will also be a forum on youth, the private sector, and parliamentary. So Gustavo, can you tell us a little bit more about those 3 important events that will take place on the 22nd?
Thank you. This is a very important question, since I am mentioning, I have spoken earlier about what we consider a new vision, or a vision from the South regarding democracy. In regards of the private sector forum, in the past, what we had was a corporate forum for democracy. The way we see it is that the private sector not only includes big corporations, but also includes all private initiatives that comes from small and middle businesses, and also all other very important initiatives, such as entrepreneurs and other cooperatives and other economic structures that, of course, are very important for the development of economic democracy, and of course fighting the fight against poverty, and providing a more democratic ways of inclusion and decent work, and all these very important aspects of a healthy democracy. So the private sector forum will also take on board other initiatives that are related to the way the private sector will help governments and other actors in the implementation of the new sustainable development goals. I think this discussion is very important, since the private sector has also played a very important role in providing input to the discussions that took place in the UN, in the frame of the UN. In the case of the Youth Forum, we believe that also the youth participation is one of the more important aspects of democracy, since, well, Latin America, our region in particular, is a youth, is a very young region in the world. So youth is a very important sector of society, and of course their more active participation. Education for democracy for this sector is very important. It's key for the development of democracy, and of course their inclusion and all aspects of democracy is very important. So I think that the focus in this forum in particular, we believe that it will provide a new look on how the youth pillar of the Community of Democracies should be considered more actively in the decision making of the Community of Democracies. In regards of the parliamentarian forum, we also believe that the structure of parliamentarians for democracy inside the Community of Democracies has been maybe not what perhaps all the rest of the actors have expected, but we believe that at this point we think that it's very important for lawmakers to actually get involved in this type of discussions. So what we will expect is that the results of the parliamentarian event that will take place as a forum on the 22nd will provide a space for parliamentarians to discuss key topics on the global state of democracy, and that will also provide very important input to the community, and hopefully we can start looking at the potential creation of a more a formal structure and of course a more coordinated participation from parliamentarians in all the activities of the Community of Democracies. Have I talked about all the forums? Okay.
Thank you very much for this detailed explanation. In the organization of these fora, we are partnering with some of the most amazing civil society organizations that you have here in Juve, the youth organization, Fundemas, an association of private business. I would like to just add on the Fundemas events, that is the private sector forum. Actually, our forum makes part of the entire week with the topic of corporate social responsibility. During that week, we are going to host a job fair for youth, for people with disabilities, because, as you said, democracy and political and civil rights are one side of democracy, but as important is the economic empowerment of people. So the Community of Democracies, together with the Presidency of El Salvador, are really trying to ensure that those two sides of the coin are taken into consideration. As you can see, as you can hear, we are going to organize numerous events. We don't have much time right now, so perhaps to finish, Gustavo, how many people altogether are we expecting to participate in the ministerial?
Well, we have the official numbers that we have been taking a closer look at it through our platform of accreditation, and we thank all the participants that will come that have been using the platform that was created to facilitate your participation. We are talking about, well, we are reaching 800 participants, active participants in the ministerial. That includes at the national level, regional, Central American, and also Red Lab, as Patricia mentioned earlier, which is a very big network of organizations, and of course the international participants and personalities from academia, also some other participants through video messages, and so we believe that these efforts have gathered a very important number of participants. So we are talking about, I will say, reaching 800 participants as of today, and most probably growing in the next days.
Thank you very much, Gustavo. Unfortunately, we will have to be slowly ending the webinar. For those of you who are coming, we are looking forward to hosting you next week at the Ministerial Conference. For those of you who will not, unfortunately, be able to join us, the events, as I said earlier, will be streamed online. We will also be reporting on Twitter and on Facebook, so please do stay tuned. Also, you will be able to find summaries and the declarations that we have spoken about on our website and on the website of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Salvador. The website of the Community of Democracies is community-democracies.org. Please do visit us to learn more about the Ministerial Conference. Thank you very much for being with us. Best regards to Moldova, Tunisia, and any other corner of the world that you have been following us from. A warm thank you to my Salvadoran colleagues, Patricia and Gustavo. We are continuing our work during those last few days, expecting an amazing event, international, fruitful, and providing and giving us the inspiration to continue the important work that the Community of Democracies has been doing for 15 years and will be doing for a long future ahead. Thank you very much, and goodbye.